Hello! Welcome to my sofa. I had some thoughts, and of course I am a massive millennial and needed to share them straight away without years of study and reflection, but I think it's important sometimes to show your working. When I was doing my GCSE maths, I always had like exclamation marks next to my work being like, show your working, show how you got here, so that people would believe that you understood the process as well as the solution. And while that annoyed 15-year-old Lena, because to be frank, she was copying from her friend Emily, in the instance of what I'm trying to achieve as I get older, it makes a lot of sense. I'm also becoming increasingly aware of the dichotomies and contradictions in everybody's lives and how nobody is pure, and call out culture online, like thinking about that and how that can be like evolved, because I get it, but I'm also like, we can't carry on like this forever, guys. You can't kill them all. We have to learn to live and forgive and productively talk to each other. So what am I talking about? What I'm trying to say is I'm going to put some makeup on while I'm chatting to you about the means of production and my thoughts on capitalism. Is that okay? Good. Jesus. I'm a contradiction. I own it. This is all the makeup I own right now. I mean, I'm lying already. This isn't just all the makeup I own. It's also a Sharpie, a moth-eaten Waterstones loyalty card. What else have we got in here? Another Sharpie, some toothpaste. I'm on a shopping up, another pen. Oh my god, why are there so many calligraphy? Have I been drawing on my face in pen? I am on a shopping ban at the moment, and it's really made me appreciate the stuff that I do have. And it's also made me think about what I am more, so I've been getting rid of stuff. Anyway, not the point. It's going to be a basic get ready with me video, I don't really know what to tell you, with a salty twist of self-reflection. So I'm going to be showing you some products. Some of the products in this bag are tested on animals, and I am against testing on animals. I'm only going to tell you what products I'm using when I condone them, and when I don't, I'm just going to be naming them by category. I'm trying this new thing where I don't waste shit, so I'm using up a lot of stuff that I don't really want to rebuy and I don't want to promote. First of all, foundation. Apart from this fabulous cut on my face I got from shaving off my PCOS beard, my skin is quite clear, so I'm just going to be using this It. Is this what beauty gurus do? This It Skin But Better CC Correcting Coverage Full Coverage Cream and Anti-Aging Hydrating Serum, and 50 plus SPF, although 50 is like scientifically the maximum amount of SPF you can have. That is the scale. So I don't understand how they can claim 50 plus, but we'll get into consumerism and marketing in a little bit. My housemate Rowan gave this to me because she works at a women's magazine and she got it for free. But I'm enjoying it a lot, and I'm worried to look up the price of it because it's probably quite expensive, but I've nearly used it up. But it's a great like moisturiser slash correcting cream that I was about to say matches my skin, but apparently not in this lighting. And also I can put it on cuts and stuff and things that are hurting on my face, and it doesn't aggravate it. I put about a pump and a half on. How do people talk and put on makeup at the same time? That's my question. So basically, I've been realising that it's really easy to talk about stuff with people you agree with. You don't always have to explain the terms that you're using, and you sometimes don't even have to understand the terms and the ideology that you're talking about, because you get the nods and you get the intimacy of saying like, hey, we agree, ha ha ha. But I've realised I've been using words for years like capitalism and socialism and communism, and perhaps I did understand them at one point, but I've been saying the words for so long now, and I've been surrounded by more and more people who agree with me, that I've either forgotten or admit to myself that I never really knew what those terms actually meant. And while I like understand the sentiments behind them, I can't actually explain why they're good to anybody above toddler age. So I picked up The Soul of Man Under Socialism by Oscar Wilde. And oh man, again, you have those ideas of people in your head where you're like, I love Oscar Wilde, Dorian Gray was amazing, biographical information I know about his life sounds great. So I was like, oh my god, Oscar Wilde, I'll read everything and highlight everything, post it on my Instagram, and completely agree and be justified in my beliefs. Now, no. Turns out, don't particularly agree with Oscar Wilde on several points. We'll get into that. So Oscar Wilde, this is The Body Shop Don't Test on Animals. They are owned by a company that tests on animals. For me, it's also about like consumer behaviour and making a vote with my money, as where just like practically where my money's going. So while this testing on animals company gets the money that I spend at the Body Shop, I feel fine about the Body Shop because the actual products aren't tested on animals, and it's kind of a vote to show that bigger umbrella company that's what people fucking care about. The Body Shop is a place I feel comfortable shopping from. That might not be the case for you. But they do these eyeshadow palettes where all of the components in them can pop out. Jump like salmon out of my hands. This is an eyeshadow square. You can buy from them for like £5, and then you buy the case, and then you can pop them in and out. So I've been buying all my eyeshadow that I have bought recently in this way. If one colour snaps, I can replace it without wasting the whole palette. If one colour I like more than all the other ones and I use it up, means that I don't waste the whole palette, and basically I think it reduces how much plastic I use around eyeshadow. So, them's the compromises we make. However, I'm also so Anglo-Saxon that I am pale enough to be able to use one of their light brown eyeshadows as contour. A lot of things that Oscar Wilde says about socialism, I agree with. However, he was quite a sarcastic man, and a lot of people debate online as to whether he even meant what he said in this book, because he also didn't make too many moves in his life to carry out any of these very strongly held beliefs he has in the book. So it's hard to tell whether he's being serious sometimes, or if he's he likes to play with the idea of ideas. He says some bloody wonderful stuff in this book. A map of the world that does not include utopia is not even worth glancing at, for it leaves out the one country to which humanity is always landing. When humanity lands there, it looks out and, seeing a better country, sets sail. Progress is the realisation of utopias. Love it. He also said, indeed, so completely has man's personality been absorbed by his possessions that the English law has always treated offences against a man's property with far more severity than the offences against his person. For the recognition of private property has harmed individualism and obscured it by confusing a man with what he possesses. It has led to individualism entirely astray. It has made gain and not growth its aim, so that a man thought that the important thing was to have and not know that the important thing was to be. True perfection of a man lies not in what man has, but what man is. Amen! I couldn't agree more, Oscar Wilde, she says as she contours her cheeks to try and conform to an unrealistic expectation of bone structure, whilst also making her forehead look muddy. What's overcoming over here? However, he talks in a really weird way about the value of art and how stupid the majority of the general public are. Now, Oscar Wilde, I wasn't alive in your day. I wasn't. I don't know how stupid the public were. But he seems to completely disregard the idea of art that is popular. I am now going in with Brow Sport brow liner from the Body Shop in a brown colour. I like it because it's so pale, it's so transparent with one stroke that you can do it wrong and it doesn't show up that much. He thinks that the general public basically, if the general public like art, then it's probably not very good. And I think that great art does both and can be commercial and understandable to the population. Just because it's not understandable to the whole population and loads of people don't like it doesn't mean it isn't good. But I don't think the opposite is that if the general public like it, then it isn't good. And he was quite pompous about that, and I don't agree. And I also think that art, to some extent, isn't just a private venture. If you want to put your art out there and if you want to get something real out of it, it has to connect with people. And I think that does mean, to a certain extent, it does have to make sense to people. And the way that, say, I try to write isn't just so that it makes me happy, although it's important that it makes me happy. And if nobody else liked it, I'd still have enjoyed creating it. But I want to know whether a passage makes sense to somebody else, because the idea behind it is so important to me, or the character that I've created is so important to me, that I want to know if people have met that character when they read what I've written. I want to know if they really feel like they know that character or they know what my ideas are, because if they don't, I've done it wrong. I'm sorry. The whole point of art is connecting with other humans, and I don't think that hiding behind intellectualism is a good enough reason to completely discard most of the population as worthless as art consumers. I think it's okay to make inaccessible art, but I don't think it's more moral to make inaccessible art. Anyway, using the eyeshadow palette, this is a light colour I'll be using. It's called Indian Rose Quartz. The other thing that I had a problem with Oscar Wilde saying was, he talks about the majority of people, they find themselves surrounded by hideous poverty, by hideous ugliness, and by hideous starvation. And basically saying that by misdirected intentions, they very seriously and very sentimentally set themselves the task of remedying the evils they see. Their remedies do not cure the disease, they merely prolong it. They try to solve the problem of poverty, for instance, by keeping the poor alive, or in the case of the very advanced school, by amusing the poor. Which on some levels is like fair, that like we shouldn't always be focusing on band-aids, plasters, but at the same time he gets into a really extreme place where he says like that people who help the poor are the problem and they're more evil than the people who screw the poor over. And he just goes on a big rant about it, and I'm like, listen, Aussie, you need to sit the fuck down. The problem is, by overexposure, we become absolutely apathetic to other people's pain. And if people did die in the streets, I don't know how much more of a reaction we could get out of most people. Like, when I first moved to the area that I live in, I was shocked by the amount of homelessness that I saw every day. And obviously I'll leave baby wipes and food and stuff on their beds, because a lot of them live under these beds under this bridge that I walk under every day. But like over the years that I've lived here, I have become immune to it. Like I have to still carry out my day-to-day tasks, and it's become normal to me, and that's really fucked up. So I don't think that by helping the poor you are damaging the cause, because a demonstration of how bad the situation is by people literally dying from poverty, I don't think is a guarantee that it's going to move people anymore, because people are literally dying, and there's a whole spectrum of middle classes out there who actually, like, in practice don't really give a shit. Like, we might say we give a shit, but we're actually not doing anything. So like that kind of means that we don't see it as a priority to stop it. I just shaded my outer corners with Petra Sandstone. What ridiculous names. It was a weird moment for me to be like, Oscar Wilde, great writer, maybe potentially a little bit of a dick. But again, this is an informal chat, pasted in the irony of the setting, which is me doing my makeup like we're going on a night out. Potentially the fact that I talk about ownership of the means of production and Marxism during getting ready is the reason that nobody comes to get ready at my house for a night out. This is the Lucas Pore ointment that my friend from Australia, Curious Cookie, sent this to me. It's from Australia, and it makes my lips soft, and I've nearly used it all up, which is good because it's probably rotten by now. She gave it to me about 6 years ago. Highlighter, unnamed highlighter, it's a secret. So while I didn't always agree with Oscar, it did help me highlight some issues in my life. One of them was just like organising my thoughts on like how things even fit into each other. So before I looked at it properly and reminded myself, I was kind of like, oh, like capitalism is bad and socialism is good and like communism is like too far. But actually what has happened is that we all used to be monarchies because of like the belief in God and shit, and no doubt some other socio-economical, historical factors, and we moved straight from monarchy into capitalism, which is why everything's gone to shit. Also because capitalism appears to be a pretty bad idea in most cases. Some people are progressive capitalists, and I am struggling to understand that, although I will work on it. So what I didn't realise is that lots of people, including Marx, thought that socialism was the thing that would come between capitalism and communism. As Russell Brand says, communism, it just means sharing, and has been absolutely abused by a lot of people who weren't really that communist. So I'm gonna have a rethink about communism and see if I do actually think it might be an okay idea, although I don't know, I'm still side-eyeing it a bit. What I liked about reminding myself a bit more about the ideas of capitalism, feminism? Why am I so obsessed with feminism? This is not about that right now, or is it? I'm using this blush stick from Soap and Glory. It's called Love at First Blush Cheek Stick, which I very much enjoy because it makes me pretend that I own Nars Orgasm when I don't. What was I saying? What I did like to remind myself of when I was thinking about all of these topics was this idea that capitalism is human nature, and that humans don't naturally share. It's an unnatural thing to be a socialist, and all humans should be economically rational actors in their interactions with the world. Whereas from what I understand, socialism claims to be a like pragmatic human choice. It's a result of choice and planning, which seems to be like the less airy-fairy, more sensible route. Not just following your instincts, because that is catastrophic in most situations, and it's kind of what makes us human. But then I think it's really weird because the left is always considered to be like the feeling people, the impulse people. They're not thinking about the facts and the rational way to really carry out change. Fuck your feelings, guys. But it seems to me that the left is like socialism and is more like about overriding your feelings about how much you need and when you need it and whether other people matter, and actually going like, but logically if we shared things, you'd be less likely to die alone of a curable disease. And also that socialism isn't a direct opposite to capitalism, it's like something else over here. Again, I will learn more, but I just wanted to chat to you about the things that I am learning. And another thing about socialism I like is this belief that human beings have needs that go beyond the basic. This is an eyeliner by The Body Shop. Skinny thin felt liner, which is probably in ebony or midnight, which just means black. That human beings have needs that are beyond the basic and beyond the material. Because there's only so many material possessions you can actually, like, there is a limit to how much you can actually appreciate, I think. Like, getting rid of loads of my clothes, realised that I only had one body and I could only appreciate some clothes at a time. I can only eat a certain amount, so either I can improve the quality of what I eat to a certain extent, and I can pay other people to make the food for me, but like I don't think that exponentially goes up and up and up the more money that I'd spend on it. I have to cover this cut at some point, aren't I? I mean, it's an accessory. It's a statement. I feel like it's like an Antoinette. It's like a socialist version of Antoinette. Like, I've literally got like a beauty spot of blood. Because revolution! So yeah, I think like we just have to start questioning why people want to be rich. Like capitalism says like people have the right to be rich. If they want to work that hard, then we should let them. We should let them take over other people's means of production and value their labour more because they've been smart about it and they've like worked out the system and educated themselves. But one, their education is often down to collective, shared, free information that they've been taught with, and sometimes the state has even paid for their education. And two, I think it should become okay to question why someone wants to be rich, and not make that a human right. Because again, like the reason I want to be rich, because everybody does want to be rich on some level. I mean, like not very rich, but I'd like, if I had more money, I'd use it to buy myself more time, in that I would stop going to my 9-to-5 job and work on other things, potentially that made money, but potentially didn't. But you can only buy a finite amount of hours. You can't buy more time than there is. I guess you can pay people to do the stuff you don't like, and that will give you more time, as well as just not having to go to work. But there is also a ceiling to that. And it seems to me that people try to fill that with stuff that doesn't fulfill them, and then they get angry and vicious or suicidal and sad, get a drug addiction. Like I haven't really seen a poster boy for somebody who is really rich and therefore happy. You know? And it, like, the idea of capitalism being good contradicts its own idea that without capitalism people would be lazy. Because the rich capitalists I know, who would never have to work again, don't seem to stop working. They want to carry on working because it's the momentum of human nature to keep working at something if you're passionate about it, or you're scared, or you want to prove something. Like, one of those three things they're doing. So even the people that have been given all the time, can buy all the time, don't even want to buy it. They are buying other things instead. So I can't believe people that say they want to be rich because they want more time. Once you get over a certain level, time is quite cheap. So, and you can only buy so much of it. There's only so much stock in supply for you. I guess money can also buy you safety, which is a really important thing. But again, unless you're like a huge public figure that needs to be protected from the whole world because people are constantly trying to assassinate you, a normal level of state-provided safety, like an efficient police service, should be able to serve you well, and you'd be paying for that through taxes. So I don't really it's not that I don't understand, but like I don't understand, but I do understand what they're saying, but I don't agree. Like, you know, you can understand something, but you also don't agree with it because you don't understand it, in that it doesn't make sense. Not that it doesn't make sense for them to think it, but like if you think about rational steps backwards as to like what they want and why, is either evil or doesn't make sense. Am I making any sense? Probably not. Sense, that's the thing that I would like to make one day. Oh, if I had enough money, I could make sense. Mascara! This is the best mascara I've ever found. It's the Roller Lash by Benefit. However, they test on animals, sad face. So I use the Roller Lash. Get ready. Somebody in my Patreon group suggested this to me, and I was like, oh my god, that is possible, you're a genius. I use the Roller Lash brush, and I put it in this number 7 mascara, a company that don't test on animals. And what do I get, people? Magic. So yeah, I think this recent drive for more like accessible minimalism, less extreme minimalism, normal people being obsessed with Marie Kondo or like getting rid of stuff and like listening more to arguments around minimalism is really interesting, because what the fuck is going to happen when we don't have people who want things? Like, the whole thing is going to morph or tumble or something. But like, if people start wanting experiences and time over things that they use in their spare time while they still plod along to a job that doesn't care about them, if people start wanting to spend more time with each other instead of being at work, and they realise that that's a thing that all of their grandparents and their grandparents work towards, and that is their social inheritance, to have more time, and it isn't actually the rightful ownership of the elite of like Boris Johnson and his mates. It's gonna be a fascinating. I'm actually really excited to be alive in this time, because I actually cannot tell what's gonna happen, although I imagine everybody felt that way. That's how foresight works. I've had a great first couple of month and a bit not shopping and using up everything I have, and it's actually scary how easy it was, considering how much I thought I was stuck on it and how I thought that I wouldn't be able to do it. And I'm like, oh, you think something has a hold on you until it doesn't. By the way, in my communist utopia, mascara will still exist, and we can fight about that in the comments. Last thing is this Matte Me matte lipstick in Velvet Slipper. It's by Sleek and I like it. Lastly, what I've been thinking about in those still small moments on the bus to work is this idea. Maybe I should just carry on this and make it a big Joker smile. How do we feel about that? Just the whole way across. Tempting. Is this idea that because you are more skilled, you deserve more money? Because the way we measure skill is a bit fucked in this country, at least. Because frankly, I think looking after... Can't talk about the inherent plus size to socialism while doing a lipstick. That is just one skill too many for me. Yeah, the idea that, what was I talking about? Yes, the idea that because you're more skilled at something, you should be paid more for it. I think if, say, like the only reason people argue for that is if they're freelancers or they're lower down in a company and they know that they're making more money for the company, so they want a share of that money. They want to make sure they're not being screwed over by their company. But if you work at a truly cooperative company, or you live in a truly cooperative society, you're getting easily your fair share, if not more, anyway. The problem with bargaining for your worth as a socialist within a capitalist society is that there's no regulation and no trust around people paying you the equivalent of how much worth you've made for a company. Most companies don't even pay their living wage, and because like a lot of bosses are earning 20 times more than the lowest paying worker, even though it's literally not possible. Do you know what the problem is here? I think that maybe we are ceiling deniers. We think that things can improve exponentially and growth is exponential, and that is, I think that we need, like, the only ceiling I want to get rid of is the glass one. All the other ceilings I agree with. Can you truly be 10 times better than the lowest paying worker at your job? 10 times better. Do you have 10 times the education that somebody else does? Or do you just have double the education that somebody else does? How we value... Yeah, that's what I was saying. How we value what a good job is and what a skilled hours of work is different. Like, If somebody left me in a room with 20 toddlers on my own for an hour and were like, keep them quiet, don't lose any of them, and make sure none of them kill themselves, I would dissolve. I have no skills in that area, and that scares me. I don't think that I would be able to work myself up to a point where I was skilled enough to keep 20 toddlers happy for an hour for a very long time. And I consider those people who do have that talent twice as skilled as me in that area. Just because you're skilled at numbers or skilled at arguing like a lawyer doesn't mean that the people who can't do those things are unskilled. And with, say, like politicians, well, they're not skilled. They have another industry. So let's go back to lawyers. So with lawyers, you can be inherently skilled as a lawyer, I guess, but you also need a lot of formal training, and you'll have paid for that formal training by having parents that own a house in an area where there is good public education, or parents that have sent you off to private education. You will have parents whose parents invested in them being educated so they could help you with the homework. You bought your skills, and the only reason you're being paid more is that somebody somewhere believes that you should see a return on the investment your ancestors have invested in you. So that's why you should be paid more, because people 200 years ago believed that your life could be exponentially improved to a point where, after basic shelter, food, safety, fun, friends, education, there could be more to life. And actually, I don't think there is that much more than that, and somehow we've developed a society where we think that luxury goods can make us gods, and they don't. Lipstick makes me temporarily happy, and it's funny and fun to put on, but it doesn't make me content. Just like finger painting is a great, fun, stimulant activity for a child, but it doesn't make up for food and shelter. We are finally, I think, replacing the place that the religion took in our societies with something that actually might replace the needs of belonging, purpose, and community, rather than this thing that we've been sitting in the middle, which is like owning 5 Furbies. Not the answer. So I'm excited that people, although the wellness community can be mad, like I'm excited that that's growing. I'm excited that minimalism is becoming more mainstream. I'm excited that people are liking experiences over things. And I think it's a dirty secret of mine, and you're willing to mock it. I think the world's getting better. Despite the tango president dips we keep making, generally it's on the up. Despite individual sadness, tragedy, and challenge, humanity is slowly working it out. Provided that we stop using plastic straws in time and we're not all covered again by rising sea levels. And on that note, I hope you enjoyed this Get Ready With Me video. Potentially not the social contract you agreed to, but there it is. What should we call it? This be a series? Maybe. I have other things to say on other things. You'll be glad to hear. Get existential with me. Crumble in a pool of thinking with me. Paint a contradiction to your thoughts on your face with me. Anyway, if you enjoy the content that I make and you do want to support it in the capitalist society within which we exist, you can join the Gumption Club, which is a Patreon group I have where I share my ideas. You get a free poetry collection when you sign up, and lots of other good stuff. We have chats and hangouts, and I give you free books sometimes. So if you want to find out more about that, the links will be in the description. Other ways you can support the channel is by sharing this video, liking this video, telling your friends. And yeah, until next time, consume with caution. Frog snog out. What the fuck has this channel become?